Creating editable tables in WordPress from Excel or CSV files using wpDataTables Table Constructor. Table Constructor is a step-by-step table creation wizard with different usage options where you can choose how would you like to create your table, configure it, maybe input some data and receive an editable table in WordPress backend or frontend. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how can we use some already existing Excel or CSV file to create an editable table in WordPress. First of all, I would like to mention that there are two possible options. How can you use your Excel or CSV file in wpDataTables? First option is described in the video tutorial, which is called creating wpDataTables from CSV files. Using this option, you can upload a CSV file or Excel file and basically use this file as a data source for a WP data table. And when you insert this table on the poster page, every time this poster page is loaded, wpDataTables will read the data from the CSV or Excel file and output it in the front end using an interactive table. And there are pluses and minuses in this approach. Pluses are that this file will be read every time. This means whenever you update this Excel file or a CSV file, change some value, edit some value, this will be immediately reflected in the front end. But the minuses, on the other hand, are that this is a slow way of using wpDataTables. I mean, when it's a couple of hundreds of rows, that's no problem. It will work fast. It will open and generate the page fast. All the sorting, filtering will work fast. But if the table gets huge, if there are many rows, many columns, I'd say 3,000, 5,000 of rows, this would slow the page down. It would load slowly. Whenever you want to sort the table, it would work slowly because the table becomes heavy. It's read each time from the Excel file or CSV file, which is already an expensive operation, and then this whole table of many thousands and thousands of cells needs to be transferred to the client's browser, and then in this browser it needs to be parsed and an interactive table needs to be generated. So when it comes to several thousands of rows, it's probably better to use Table Constructor. Table Constructor also accepts CSV and Excel files, but it doesn't read this Excel or CSV file all the time, every time on page load. It imports the data instead, creates a new table on MySQL side, and creates a WP data table based on MySQL query with server-side processing, which means that only 10 rows or only 25 rows or whatever you choose will be transferred each time when the users use this table in the front end. And all the operations will still work very quickly. Also, this table can be done editable, and either you from the backend can always change the table, or your front-end users would be able to change the table. And it would not be possible with the Excel-based or CSV-based WP data table. Hope it's not confusing. If it is, maybe you can go through our other video tutorials or text documentation on the difference between adding WP data tables from data source or creating WP data tables with Table Constructor. So we will use in this tutorial this Excel file. Sorry, it's a CSV file. It has 4 columns, and first one is company name, second one is creation date, third one is yearly revenue, and fourth one is phone number. I will use this file to show you how can we import the data to MySQL and create create this WP data table using the Table Constructor. So first of all, please open your WordPress admin panel and there go to wpDataTables, wpDataTable Constructor. Table Constructor is a step-by-step table creation wizard where you can go through simple steps, choosing different options, configuring your tables, and without much input you can get editable tables in the end. In our case, we would need to use the table constructor to import a CSV file that we prepared. So we need to choose the second option on the first step. This second option says, I would like to read the initial table data from an input file. We click next, and the next step is basically just an input where you can upload your CSV or your Excel file. When you click upload, WordPress media library pop-up is open, so you can use it to browse to your CSV or Excel file. So here's our file, CSV table example. Then when it's uploaded, we just click choose file. The link is inserted here, and then we can click next. Next step is the most important. It's the table configuration. First of all, we need to define the table name, demo CSV import. Then for each of the columns that wpDataTables managed to find in the input file, it creates a column block. So each of these is a column block, and it contains the configuration for a column. Let's see what kind of configuration does it have. First of all, it's the column header. So it's the header that will be displayed to the front-end users when they work with the table. Second one is the type. So this is a single select which all defines the data type for the column, the filter type for the advanced filtering, and the front-end editor editor input element, also for the backend editor. So since this table generated with the table constructor will be editable, all the columns will have corresponding editor inputs. So this select box actually defines three things at once. Possible values are one-line string, which is a small string, usually up to a couple of hundreds of characters. Next one is multi-line string, which is basically the same but without any limit. Also for the editor, it renders a multi-line edit which accepts line breaks, and these line breaks will be visible in the table as well. Third one is one-line select box, and fourth one is multi-line select box. These are basically similar. They mean that users will have a predefined list of values, and each cell in this column will have one of these predefined values. The only difference is one-line select box is something like this, so you can choose only one option, and the multi-line select box is similar, but there users can choose multiple options or none. Also, when we choose one-line select box or multi-line select box, this input here appears. I will get to this later. Just to finish with different types. Next type is an integer, which basically the input is also one-line text input, but all the data entered in this column will be treated as integers, and everything non-numerical will be cut. Float is similar, but it will also always have decimal places, usually 2 by default, but you can redefine the number of decimal places in wpDataTables settings. Next one is date. Apparently it's used for storing and managing dates. For example, this column here, it didn't guess correctly the type, so we need to choose it manually, date, because these are dates apparently. Next one is URL link, which is a text string, but everything that will be input by front-end or back-end users will be validated as URL links, and if they try to enter an invalid URL, they will get a warning, validation error, and the input data won't be saved. Same as for email, just that in this case the string will be validated to be a valid email. Next one is image, here. Here the column type will be treated as image, so everything from this cell wpDataTables will try to render as an image. So this should be a URL link to an image uploaded to your server or some remote server. And the last one is attachment. So in the table frontend, it will be just a link to download attachment, and in the backend, in the editor, this is going to be a browse button, which will allow you to use WordPress media library to upload and attach files to the table rows. Getting back to one-line select box and multi-line select box, we also, if we choose one of these types, we get this input, possible values. So this is an input where you can enter the list of values, red, green, white, etc. So when you enter a value, you just click press comma, and everything will be saved. So it works like tags. You can enter as many as you need, and if you enter something that you don't need, you can click on this X here to remove, and this list will be used for generating select boxes. Default value, here you can define a default value which will be used for filter predefined value. Also, it will be pre-filling the editor input by default. Basically, all new rows will have this default value in this column if you define it here. And here you can just see a data preview. So it basically reads 5 rows of the file. First row is used to fetch the column headers, and the 4 rows below it are shown so you could preview the data. For example, here we noticed that actually these are dates, but it didn't see that these are dates, so we had to define the type manually. One more option here is that you can reorder columns. For example, if you want phone number to go in front of company, you can just drag and drop these columns, and during the import, this new order will be used. Also, you can skip importing some columns. For example, we decided that we don't need phone number. Then we can just remove this from our import by clicking this X button here, or close button, similar. When we click it, the column block is removed. And one more option is that we can actually, during import, add more columns that do not exist in our Excel or CSV file. So we just click this plus here. It's adding a new column block. Let's say sector, and this is going to be a one-line select box. And let's say IT, construction, engineering, advertising, and that's enough. We can also choose a default value. This will mean that during the import, since this column didn't exist, it will pre-fill all the rows with this value, IT. So basically that's it with the table constructor, because at this phase we configured our table, it's ready for import. So now we just click create the table and open the editor. It will import all the data, it will create a new table on MySQL site, it will create a new wpDataTable which will be editable from the backend, but won't read the Excel file every time on page load, and it will show us the settings of these wpDataTables, so we could maybe redefine them if we need. So let's see, we are clicking, it's loading, and then it takes us to the backend structure of wpDataTable. So we can see our column settings, and we see, for example, sector, the default value is AT. I will remove it now since it's pre-filled the imported columns. We can save it once again, and then we can go to Backend Editor to see how the table looks and maybe to edit some data if we need it. In the Backend Editor, we can see all the data from the table, has been imported. The sector has been pre-filled with IT, but if we edit, we can choose a different from the list that we prepared. And we can go on with editing new rows, adding new rows, deleting rows, etc. So this table has no further connection with the initial Excel file. It has been migrated and now it's stored and managed totally on MySQL side. I will not stop in detail in this video tutorial on the Backend Editor because we have a separate video tutorial on this, which you can go on and check if you're interested. And I guess in this tutorial we successfully covered creating and importing the CSV and Excel files to editable wpDataTables using the Table Constructor. So thank you for watching and see you in next tutorials.
Purchase wpDataTables exclusively on Code Canyon.